Senor George,
Buenas noches, good evening.
good evening.
How are you?
Good, wet, but okay.
We're all wet.
Mm-hmm.
Ay, ay, ay. I'm reading about all this stuff going on with Biden
Anyway,
possibly pushing Israel into a ceasefire. So frustrating.
yeah, he needs the left to get votes. Because I know in his heart he knows they don't have to stop fighting.
That's right.
Who knows?
I think Israel is not going to stop till they get either the hostages or Rafah and take all of them. And I don't see what options they have.
They don't. They don't.
Nope. You know, it's interesting. The Biden has had such a dismal course in terms of his international policies, his exit from Afghanistan and all this other stuff, that for him to try to be telling anyone else,
Yeah.
and it's crazy. It's insane.
And you know, he was for 30 years, when he was a senator, in the Foreign Relations Committee. He was supposed to be an expert in foreign relations.
He doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
You know, the one thing I've learned about Biden, his IQ is not very high. I hate to say that. I don't like to judge other people without directly checking his studies, but his comments, his insights, his observations are just not deep and insightful.
Well, it could be his age also.
Well, no, I think the age is making it much worse. Much worse. You're absolutely right. I think that the age is just
very nice.
But then during the week I'm working. I mean, I'm doing all my stuff. I'm in the VA clinic, so that's what makes it intense. It's really hard.
Okay.
Buffet 105.
We are here.
Good. So we said the case is where the father had already been adjudicated in Besdin, and that's why it's considered like a malved bishtar, which you can collect from the heirs. So so why wouldn't you pay the fifth? You have the Karen established by Besdin, you should pay the fifth. We said that it had to do with land. And when you deny land, you don't take a shvuah. It's only on metatl. Rava gives a different teretz. Rava Amar Hachmaiskin Konchaisa Diskaya Shalavi Mufkeres Biarachemim. The thing that the father stole was like in a wallet, and it was given to another person to watch. Karen Mishalim Da'isa. You pay the Karen because it's present. When he said, when he took a shvuah that I don't have it, he really didn't have it because it was being watched by somebody else. Then the Mishnah said, if it was less than Shabbat Pruta, then there would be no chodesh. That's if what was stolen doesn't exist. Even though it's less than Shabbat Pruta, he'd have to go give it back to wherever the guy is, even in China, because maybe the thing that's worth half a Pruta now, maybe it'll go up in value, and it'll be more than a Shabbat Pruta. I have to get my plug because I see my computer is going to go out. So just 1 second. Okay, that's what. Ikadi Amri, other people learn differently. That Amr of Papa Loishnag Zel Kayemes, Veloshna Shenk Zel Kayemes. If the item is worth less than a pruta, doesn't make a difference whether the item exists or not. He doesn't have to, you don't have to return him to the ends of the earth. This concept that maybe the thing that's worth less than a pruta is going to get more in value. We're not worried about that issue. We look at what it is now. Rava. Rava gives us some different principles. Glavol shalosh agudos. Person steals 3 stalks of vegetable. At the time that he stole it, the 3 stalks were worth shalosh prutos. So each stalk was worth a pruta. V'huzlu, v'amdu al shtayim. Now the 3 are only worth 2 prutos. Im hechzer lo shtayim, if he returns 2 of the stalks, chayv laser lo acheres. Even though the remaining 3rd one is not worth a pruta, worth less than a pruta. Taratuna. The same was learned. Gazel chametz. A person stole chametz before Pesach. Over Lava Pesach. Then the Pesach went through. This is now chametz to over Lava Pesach. It's not worth anything. So you stole something prior to Pesach, which was worth $1,000. There were 5 bottles of Macallan whiskey, which is chametz. But now, this is chametz shavalava pesach. It's not worth anything. So you might think you still owe him $1,000. No, you have the whiskey. You return the whiskey as is. You returned it. It's not worth anything. It's not your problem. Why? Time of the isabene. The chametz is existing, and therefore the gazan can say hareshel chashel fanech. Halesa be'ene. If it didn't exist, even though because it's chametz, it's not worth anything. Even the mikar mamoinahu, since prior to Pesach it was worth money, boy Shlomi has to pay the $1,000.
Ernie, I want to ask you a kasha. By the way, I was learning. Everybody talks about that. It's you stole Macallan whiskey. It's funny. I learned that. I listened to another shit. But I just want to ask you a different kasha. The guy it's chometz shavar lava Pesach for the guy who stole the whiskey. The guy who doesn't have the whiskey in his reshut. The guy who doesn't have the whiskey in his reshut when he stole the whiskey on Pesach. Did he steal it before Pesach or he stole it on Pesach?
Before Pesach.
Before Pesach.
It's an issue in the cheftza. The it doesn't make a difference in whose reshus it is.
In other words, if it's in a Jewish person's reshus,
Chametz that belongs to a Jew, and he didn't get rid of it by selling it or destroying it,
What
it
happens?
becomes us.
What happens if he had mevatled it? He had mevatled it. He made bittul.
If it was mevatel, then it was not in a Jew's possession. It's not a problem. But the
But if it was in a Jew's possession, it is a problem.
so the Goslin was not mevatel it. If in a chanami, the Goslin stole it, and then what was in his possession prior to Pesach, he was mevatel it. It would not be chametz shavar lo Pesach because it was not in his possession during Pesach. It's only considered aser banoach chametz shavar lo Pesach if it remains in the Jew's possession, i.e., he didn't sell it, he didn't mevatel it. In a chanami, you're absolutely correct. Let me just get a tissue. 1 second.
Funny, I was listening to a synopsis of this. I listened to the synopsis of the Daf from somebody else before we learned the Daf, and the guy talked about how he stole 25 bottles of Macallan, of 25. Everybody talks, all the Rabbeim talk about Macallan. It's crazy. I was listening to
That's because it's an example of something chametz that's very valuable.
valuable. So he was
Normally,
talking
when you got a loaf of bread, it's worth a buck.
he stole 25 bottles of 25-year-old Macallan. That's why this Rabbi Lev, I listened to the synopsis from Rabbi Lev. It's very funny that you came up with the same thing.
Well, because it's worth a lot.
Yeah, okay.
It's an example of by saying Hareshul Chal Fanecha, he doesn't have to pay the $25,000 that he owes. Right? We had 3 stalks of vegetable. They're only worth 2 now. And he returned 2 of them. But since Kivan de Mikora Havishavi Pruta, since originally the 3rd stock was worth a Pruta Boishlu, he has to pay. Boy Rav. Rav asked the following question. Gazal Shtei Agudos. The Pruta. There were 2 stocks. The 2 stocks together were worth a Pruta. So each stock is worth half a Pruta. Vehichzer lo achas meha. He returned one of them. Mawadin. Mi aminam hashtalek gzela. That which is left in his possession is worth less than Shava Pruta. So then maybe he doesn't have to return it. Maybe there's no din hashava. Oy dilma halo had gzela davi gavei. He has not returned that which he stole, which was the 2 stocks. So which way do we go? Hadir Pashta, Rava, who posed the question, he himself resolved it. He said, Gzela Enkan. There's no Gzela if he only has the 1 stock, which is worth less than a Shavuot Pruta. You can't call it a Gzela because he didn't steal something that's worth a Shavuot Pruta, that's remaining. And then he said, Hashava Enkan. And therefore, there's no need to be Meshi. So, Igzela Enkan. What do you mean if now that which he had is in his hand is not viewed as Igzela? So, he had returned one of the stocks. So what? Hashava Yeshkan? What? So was there a return originally? So it's confusing. So Hachikam. This is how you have to understand Rava now. Even though he had stolen 2 items, he had returned 1, and that which is left in his hand does not qualify as a gzela, mitzvah sashava enkan. He has not returned what he's supposed to return because he didn't return everything that he stole. He stole 2, only returned 1. So technically, he would have to return the remaining 1. There's a similar case that Rav is going to bring. Amar Rav. Harayamu. Nazir Shigileach. A Nazir who says, Hareni Nazir. So you have to not contaminate yourself to Tumas Mace, the corpse Tumah, nor can you drink wine, and you have to grow your hair. most Naziris is 30 days. So at the end of the 30 days, you have to take a haircut. And he took his haircut, but Shire Shtei Cyrus, he left 2 hairs. So lo asav lo klum. He does not fulfill the din of giluach, the mitzvah of giluach. You're allowed to leave 1 hair. That's considered that you did mitzvah's giluach. But if you took a haircut, you removed every hair except for 2, you didn't do anything. So boy Rava. So this Nazir comes to us with the 2 hairs left. And gileach achas. He shaves 1 of the hairs that's left. And nashra achas. And the remaining hair fell out. Mahu. Is he yotze giluach? Amalei Ravacha medifti l'Ravina. Nazir shegilech achas kama boile l'Rava. A Nazir, when he takes his haircut, can cut 1 hair at a time. There's no specific din. He's got to cut all the hairs at one shot. And here he took 1 hair at a time. What's wrong with that? Omerlei. So Ravina said, Lo tzricha, the chiddush is, man, what happened first, he had 2 hairs left, and 1 of the hairs fell off, and he has 1 hair left. The gileach achas, he shaved the remaining hair. Miamrinan hashtemias haleka. Look, if we look at his head, he has no hair left, and so there's no shear remaining. That would be mi'akev the mitzvah of giluach. Oidel mahalav giluachu. Or we'd say, it's not fulfilling the mitzvah's giluach. Dimikara hashayr shtei cyrus. After his original haircut, he had 2 hairs remaining, which would have a chiyuv giluach. Bahashta ki gileach, now that he took his haircut, lo avi shtei cyrus. He only cut 1, and maybe we can't consider it a giluach. So Hadar Pashta. So Rava again posed the question and answered himself. Seyar Einkan, Giluach Einkan. He has no hair, but he doesn't fulfill Giluach. So again, the Gemara doesn't understand. He's Seyar Einkan. If we view him as having no hair, so Giluach Yeshkan, he should have been fulfilling the mitzvah of Giluach. So Hachi Kama. This is how we have to understand the words of Rav. Afal Pisha Seyar Einkan. Those 2 hairs that were Ma'akev the Giluach are not here anymore. Mitzvah's Giluach Einkan. He didn't fulfill the mitzvah's Giluach. He was not Makayim the mitzvah fully. Now we're going to bring a 3rd case that's similar. Amar Rav. Harei Amru. Chavis shenikva. You have a barrel. And something tamei lands on the chavis. Normally, whatever's inside the barrel would become tamei. However, if the barrel has a hole in it, it cannot become tamei anymore because there's no chatzitza preventing something from coming out. But sitmu ashmorim, if sediments plug up that hole, it's ilua. It's viewed as if the barrel is closed. So boy Rava, agav chatzia, the hole half of the hole got closed, Mao. Since there isn't a shear of the hole that's you need to ruin the chavis is viewed as a closed chavis. Or do we view it still as an open chavis? Armalei Rav Yem Rav Ashi. Lav Mishnah Finui. It's our Mishnah, this not. Chavis shenikva v'sitmu shmorim. A barrel that had a hole in it and sediments plugged it up. Hitzilua. It does not become tum anymore. But Hakaka bismoira. If you put some leaves to try to close up the hole, it's not considered that you closed it. Ad yimrak. You got to put some cement around those branches in order to close it off real well. Ayu barshtayim. There were two branches. It's not good enough closure. Ad yimrak benat stadim. You have to cement in the sides. Ubein zamar lechaverta. And between the branch and the other branch. Why? Haima shemarach, because you cemented it. Lo marach lo. If you didn't cement it, it remains a hole. The Gemara asks, "Amai v'teheviki agav chatzeh." Why does it become at least like part of the hole got closed up? So maybe that's the answer to Rava's question, that a half a hole is not considered as if it's closed. Amri, we say achiyatra, there's no comparison.
Only what is half a hole? It's still a hole.
Some of the hole got closed up. So there's a shear of a hole in order to be mavatal this chavis. So now let's say it's got to be a centimeter in diameter. Now a leaf plugged it up so it's only 5 millimeters in diameter. That's what we mean, half a hole. So,
Okay.
and then we brought a contradictory case from the case of the branches that we say, oh, just by reducing the hole with the branches is not enough. You got to cement it to make it waterproof.
Okay.
Awesome, if you don't cement it, the hole is not considered, it's considered still a hole. Maybe that's enough. So it's left as a teku. We don't have an answer to the question of agav chatzeh. Half of it is closed. Amarava. Hare amru. Gazal chametz farvel Pesach. A person stole chametz before Pesach, and then Pesach passed. He can give what he stole back, even though it's not worth anything, but he returned it. Amr la reshach al fanecha. Boy Rava. Nishba alav mahu. Let's say he took a shvua that he hadn't stolen it. And then it turns out, this is after it became usher. It's after Pesach. And then he takes a shvua that he doesn't have it. Ma. And then it was false. So normally you have to bring a korban, you have to pay a fifth. Now, if somebody, right now, he has the Macallan, that's valuable to him because he can take the Macallan, give it back to the owner, doesn't have to pay anything. Let's say somebody came to his house and stole the Macallan. He'd have to pay the $1,000. So he takes a shvua. He's taking a shvua on real money. Because if it was stolen, you have to pay real money. Because he wouldn't be able to say, he doesn't have it. So, Mamonika kofferle. So, when he takes a shvua to deny that he had it, he did it on real money. And therefore, you'd have to bring the chaymish and the asham. Oy del mahashtem yesomanach. The afra ba'alma. Since right now, this is not worth anything. When he takes the shvua to deny that he ever stole it, lo kofferle mamoina. He's not denying that he has mammon. So, milsa the ivoile le rava. This question that was a question for Rava, Pshita Leila Rabba. Rab and Rav Yosef were the Amoraim in the previous generation before Abai and Rava. So Rabba and Rava are two different Amoraim. Rabba was the older one. Where do we see that this was Pashat for Rabba? Amar Rabba. Shoiri Gonafta. Reuben says to Shimon, you stole my ox. V'hu Shimon says, Lo Gonafti. I didn't steal it. However, the owner of the ox says, Mat tivu etzla. Yeah, but my shore is in your backyard. So what do you mean you didn't steal it? What's it doing in your backyard? So he says, Shomer Chinam ani Allah. You gave it to me to watch as a Shomer Chinam, as an unpaid watchman. That's what's it doing. I didn't steal it. I'm a Shomer Chinam. And he takes a shvua. And then it turns out that he was lying. And he admits that he was a liar. So chayiv. He has to bring the Osham and the Chaymer. Now, he's admitting or doesn't belong to him, that it belongs to Ruvain by saying I'm a shomer. But once he says he's a shomer chinam, hare poter atzmo b'gneva laveda. A shomer chinam does not have to pay if an item is lost or stolen from him. So if the ox had been stolen from him, he wouldn't have to pay because he's a shomer chinam. So he's gaining a little bit money through his lie. Because a Goslin who's holding on to an item and it gets stolen or lost would have to pay. So by claiming he's a shomer chinam, he's making money off the deal. That's why he's chayiv the choimish and the osham. Even if something oinus happens to the shore, Goslin has to pay. If something oinus happens to a shomer chinam, he doesn't have to pay. So that's why even the taina, the cross complaint, where the guy says to him, you stole my ox. He says, no, I know it's not my ox, but I'm a shomer chinam. So even though you might think that he's not denying that the thing doesn't belong to the other person, it protects him monetarily by the claim of shomer chinam. Similarly, if he said shomer socher ani Allah, what's it doing in my backyard? You gave it to me as a paid watchman. Still chayiv if he's found to be a liar. He's really a Goslin. He just claimed he's a shomer socher. Why? Sharei poter atzmo mishvura mesa. A shomer socher, a paid watchman, has to pay for gneva v'aveda, but he doesn't have to pay if the animal breaks its leg or dies. Like it dies through a natural cause. Shomer socher is poter from that. Which a ganef, a Goslin, is not poter. So he saved himself some money by the false claim of being a shomer socher. Even if he claimed shoyel ani Allah, even if he claimed I borrowed your ox. Now a shoyel is chayiv in most oinsim, but he's still chayiv for the false shvua to bring a korban in the choimish. Sharei poter atzmo by mesa machmas malacha. A shoel does not have to pay if the ox died while working. Alma, alpha gav the hakoyim. And even though, here's an example, even though the ox is still in existence, even the imigniv mamonika kafar, because if someone had come and stolen this, you would have to, on these cases of shomer chinam even, he'd have to pay hashtanami mamonika kafar. It's considered, even though it's not the end, he doesn't have it, it's considered that he was quite for moment. So here as well, Hacha, in Rava's question, by Chometz, Shavar Lav Pesach, and he took a false shvua, Nami. Avagav the Afra Ba'almahu, even though it's not worth anything, even the imigniv, since if the McCallum was stolen from him, boy Shlumer Lemamonim Ali has to pay $1,500. Hashtanabi Mamonika Kafele. By taking a false shvua, he was quite for a moment. So Yosef Rava, the Ka'amar Lahai Shmaitza. Rava was learning the sugya in the yeshiva. And Esvei Rav Amram LeRava. Rav Amra showed a contradiction to Rava. From a Baraisa regarding the requirement to bring an Asham. It says, V'chichesh ba, he denied that he has it. Prat l'moide be'ikr. What is this? Ketsa. Amar Shari Ganavti. Reuven says to Shimon, you stole my ox. V'hu amir lo ganavti. Shimon says, I didn't steal it. Reuven says, Mativo etzlacha. What's the ox doing in your backyard? So he says, Atamachartali. You sold it to me. Right? He doesn't say he's a shoimer. He says, you sold it to me. Or, Ata natatali b'matana. You gave it to me as a gift. Or, Avicha machruli. Your father sold it to me. Or, Avicha nasula b'matana. Your father gave it to me as a gift. Or, Achar parasi rats. Your ox ran after my ox and came into my backyard. Or me'elav bo etzli, or just wandered in. O Torah b'derech mitzasi, or I found it wandering around lost. Or shomer chinam aniela, or I'm an unpaid watchman. Shomer socher aniela, I'm a paid watchman. Shoyel aniela, I borrowed it. And in all these cases, nishba, he took an oath, and then hoide, and then later on he confessed that the oath he took was false, and really he was a gazlan. Yachol yechayev. I might think he had to bring the korban ashram and pay the chomesh. Talmud lomer v'chichesh ba prat lemoyed beikr. It excludes. You do not have to bring the chomesh or the ashram if you admitted that it doesn't belong to you. And in all these cases that we just said, he admitted that the shore was not his at one point. The details on how it got into his backyard were, but in every claim, he claims that what didn't belong to him. And Rabba had stated that someone who had claimed that I'm a shomer chinam is chayiv to pay, not that you're potter to pay, even though he admitted it, it didn't belong to him. So it's a kasha from this brisa. Amr lay, Rava said to Rav Amram, to do a fool. Kitanya he, when the brisa states that he's potter when he's makes the claim that he was a shomer, that's the Ka'amar lay that yes, I was a shomer, and here v'helech, and I'm going to return it to you. Because he's not, and he returns it. So he's not gaining any money by his denial. Ki kamina, what I'm dealing with is a case, the kaima ba'agam. The ox is in a field somewhere. It's in a different place. And he's not prepared to give him the ox right away. In the meantime, he doesn't give him anything. He's just making the claim that I'm a shomer. And in that case, if it was a lie, he's chayiv mammon. And it's considered denial of money, and he has to pay the chomesh and bring the korban. Okay. So now you're claiming that the Baraisa is a case where the ox is not in his possession. And one of the claims you said was, Ata machartuli. You sold it to me. Meaning, what is the ox doing in my backyard? You sold it to me. So then, my moide be'ikr. You claim that that's a confession where he's admitting that it doesn't belong to him. What are you talking about? He's saying that it does belong to him, that he bought it. Lo tzricha, the omer lei, lo natati lecha demi. Yeah. I haven't given the money yet. So therefore, shakel torcha v'zil. So here you can take back your ox. So what about the case of atanatatali? You gave it to me as a gift. Or avicha natnuli. My moide be'ikr ikr. He's not confessing to the ikr that it doesn't belong to him. He's claiming that it was given to him. The omer lei, almanas davinu l'chanayich nafshe. That I accepted the gift, so you would have hana. I didn't feel the tzna of giving you hana. So therefore, shakel torcha v'zil. The reason you're potter in that case, because I say, take back your ox, take back your gift. What about the claim of toya b'derech matzasi? That he claimed he found the ox wandering around lost and he took it in. So lema, so the Bailim should have said, so what do you mean? Why didn't you give it back to me? The oath that he took was, I found a lost object, but I didn't know it belonged to you. And that's why I didn't return it. So that all explains the Baraisa. So again, in the sugya of a person who takes an oath on some item, but that it really doesn't have any value. So is that considered that you were koifer, that you were v'chichesh ba? Tanya Omer ben Azai. Shalosh shvuos hein. So if you have a witness who knows some facts and you make him take a shvua. So for example, let's say the witness knows that something that I lost, somebody else has. And the aide initially denies knowing, and then he confesses. Or hikirbo. He admits that he recognizes the lost object and that it belongs to Ruvain, but velo b'motza. But he doesn't know who has the object. And the third example is he knows b'motza, but velo ba. He knows that a person found something, but he doesn't know what he found. And there's a case of lo ba velo b'motza. Now, what do you mean? Lo ba velo b'motza. He doesn't know what was lost and who found it. Then kushti ishtapa. Then that might be something that's a truth. Maybe he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know the Aveda, and he doesn't know who found it. So, Ema ba uvamotza. He doesn't know either what was lost or who found it. Now, this statement of Benazai Lamai Hilchasa, what halacha lemais are we dealing with? Rav Ami Omar Rav Chanina, liftor. That is, you cannot force the aide to take the standard shvuas edus. Ushmuel Omar l'chiyuv. Shmuel says in all these cases you can still force the aide, and this is beplukta dani tanoi. It's based on the following machlokes tanoi, the Tanya. Hamashbia eid echad. If you make a single aide take the standard oaths that aidim take, that the aide saw something or knows something, that Shimon owes Ruvain money, and the single aide takes a shvua that he doesn't know, and later on he confesses that he did know, so potter. That aid does not have to bring the korban shvua. But Reb Lezer Reb Shimon mechayiv. Reb Lezer Reb Shimon says he's chayiv to bring the korban. But my kamiflagi, what are they arguing in? What principle? Mar Savar, Reb Lezer Reb Shimon, who makes him take a shvua, holds Dover agorm lamaman kemaman dami. Even something is not mammon, but it leads to mammon. And the aid could make one of the parties admit it's mamish edus on money. So he'd have to bring a korban if he denies it, if he denies knowing. Umar Savar, Dover hagoyrim lamaman is lav kemaman dami. Why? Can one aid require somebody to pay money in Beis Din? Absolutely not. We know aid echad is neman bisurim. One aid can go in and say this is not kosher, but you cannot. One aid comes into Beis Din and says Reuven owes Shimon $1,000. We can't make Reuven pay the $1,000. You need two aidim for that. So the mandama that says he's potter from the korban holds because the testimony of one aid isn't worth anything. Now, what will the testimony of one aid do? Require the party that is claimed to owe something, take a shvua that he didn't do it. So there is power to one aid. And since the one aid can be goyrim that the guy has to take a shvua, that's enough to be considered it like mammon. Rav Sheshes. A koifer b'fikodim. A person is going to China and he gives something to his neighbor to watch while he's in China. That's a pikodim. He comes back from China and he goes to his neighbor to get the item back. And the neighbor says, "You never gave me anything." And then Adim come that he was lying, and he does have the item. Nasa Alav Gazlam. This guy who was a shomer means if the guy left to China and deposited an item with his neighbor, so he's begeder shomer. If he didn't pay him, he's a shomer chinam. If he paid him, he's a shomer sachar. Now, a shomer chinam and a shomer sachar have certain levels of responsibility. Are they potter b'gneva v'veda? Right, a shomer chinam is potter by all oinsim. Shomer sachar is chayiv. Okay, a gazlan. If you're a gazlan, you have the item with you. You're chayiv for everything. So now, if you were a liar who claimed, and the Adim come and say you had it all along, you, from the time you denied having it, you're treated as a gazlan. The chayiv ba'oinsim. And therefore, if something by accident happened to the item, he has to pay for it. Not just through his negligence, like a shomer chinam. And we assume that it was a shomer chinam because it doesn't say that the guy who went to China paid him anything. V'tana tuna, it says in the Baraisa, v'chichesh bra, labmadnu oynish. That from there, that if you deny having something, we know the punishment to the person who denied. Now, what about azara minayim? Where is there a lav in the Torah to do it? Talmud loimer lo sechachashu. Don't deny. Now, my lav, what is the kavon of this brisa? Lo oynish mamon, that if you deny, you have to pay money. And you're chayiv even if by an oinus, because he lied. That seems to be a proof to Rav Sheshes. The Gemara says lo oynish shvua. He just has the regular punishment of someone who took a shvua falsely, which is you have to pay a fifth and you have to bring the korban ashram. So the Gemara says, "Hamiditani seifa v'ishtaba." Later on in the seif of that brisa, it says he took a shvua. Michlal dereisha delo ishtaba. must be that the beginning part of the Mishnah is that there's no Shvuah. He just denies having it. He doesn't take a Shvuah. And where do we see this? Diktani Seifa, V'nishbal Sheker, if he swore falsely, Lamadnu Oynish. That's the punishment of bringing a korban asham and paying a fifth, that he denied having the item with him. And Azar Minayin, where's the law? Talmud Omer Lo Shakaru. Now, Umi the Seifa di Ishtaba, if the end of the Mishnah is talking about a case where he swore, Reisha de Lo Ishtaba, the Reisha must be a case where he just denied without a shvur. Amri, no. Adi va'adi di Ishtaba. Both the Reisha and the Seifa are dealing with cases where he took the shvur. But rather, Kan Shohida. One case is where he confessed after he took the shvur that he was lying, versus Kan Shabo Edim, meaning if he took a shvur that he didn't have the Ming vase that his friend deposited with him, and then Edim come and say, oh, we saw the Ming vase in Shimon's house. So it's a different in halacha whether one admits that he lied versus when he takes the shvur to aid him prove that he lied. Im also Eidim chayiv bo'insim. If Eidim come to contradict what he had said, then he's chayiv like a gazlan. But im oidu, so there's an incentive for him to confess. Chayiv im oidu, chayiv bekeren v'choimish v'asham. Then he has to pay the Karen Choimish for Asham. But again, he's not. In the first case, when Eidim come, he's chayv like a Gosling. And if he confesses, he has to pay the Karen Choimish for Asham, but not necessarily he's treated like a Gosling. Now, this new halacha that Rav Sheshes has introduced, that someone who denies having something that was deposited with him, he's like a Goslin from the time that he denied, even without a shvur. Masrif Rami Bar Chama. It's a Mishnah in Shvuas. You have a claimant and somebody you're claiming from. If I go to, Reuven goes to Shimon and says, Shimon, you owe me $1,000. Normally a shvua is taken, if a shvua is needed, by Shimon, by the one who's being claimed against. The toveya, the one who makes the claim, is not the one who takes the shvua that I loaned him $1,000. It's Shimon says, no, you didn't loan it to me, and he's potter. For example, moide b'miktsas. Normally, if Reuven makes a claim that Shimon owes you $1,000, he denies it completely. There's no shvua. What's the din? Reuven has to bring proof. If there's no proof, there's no payment. Now, if Shimon says, no, you didn't loan me 1,000, you loaned me 500. So he has to take a shvua on the remaining 500. I swear that you only loaned me $500. Remember, we're dealing in a society where people didn't want to take shvuas. It was considered a bad thing to take a shvua. So on who is the shvua Rami? On the person that is being claimed against. Normally, the person who makes the claim is not the one who takes a shvua. But there are exceptions, where sometimes even the toveya, the one who's claiming the money, takes the shvua that I loaned you $1,000, you have to pay me back. And he gets it. Now, who is that? Let's say Reuven and Shimon, right? Shimon normally is supposed to take the shvua, but let's say shvua is somebody who is not believed when he takes an oath. Now, who is that? Ketzad. Who is considered a person that we would not rely on his oath? Echad shvuas edus. If there's a history that we had asked him to be an aide, and he swore falsely that he didn't know anything, right? He swore that I don't know anything. It turns out he did know anything. So someone who has this in his history, he's choshud in shvua. And even though normally we would have him take the shvua to say that you only loaned me 500 and not 1,000, in that case, Reuven gets to take the shvua that I loaned him 1,000, and Bezdin will make Shimon pay the full 1,000. Echad shvua sapikodom. Somebody who swore falsely in the past that when the guy went to China, he didn't give me anything to watch. And it turns out that that was false. He either admitted or Adim came to say that they saw the item in my house. Afilu shvur shav. He takes I take an oath that I'm going to eat this loaf of bread, not a money thing. And then he doesn't eat the loaf of bread. These are examples of someone who's choshed al shvua that we reverse who takes the shvua. Now, in Isa, Rav Sheshes just told us that a person who denies having a pikadon is treated like a gazlan. So, based on Rav Sheshes, we wouldn't have had to listed this shvuas hapikadon as an example of a false shvua that he took to make him choshen al shvua, because b'kfirahu de ifsalei, the moment he says I didn't have the pikadon, he's already considered like a gazlan, and a gazlan certainly is possible as shvua. Amri achad mayaskinon. The koi ba'agam. Remember, if the cow or item is not in his house, the lav kfirahu. When he was koifer and nifsal kegazlan, he's got to have the item. Because the Sovar, why did he initially deny that he had it? He's a delay tactic. He's just saying, I never received it. But he knows where that cow is, and he's going to go and get it so he can give it back. So Rav Sheshes already considers him a gazlan. Mishas Kfira is a case where Adim came to say that he had it. Teda, that's correct. Sha'omer Avidi Baravin HaKoifer B'malva. Somebody who denies that he was given a loan, and then Adim come that say he borrowed, is kosher le'edus. Why? Only b'fikadon pasal le'edus. But if he denies a pikadon, he's pasal. If it's determined that the item was in his hands. Because over there isn't this potential claim that maybe he was in a delay mode. Clearly, he was lying. Okay, we'll stop here.
Okay, what time are we going to learn tomorrow?
Tomorrow we'll also learn at 7.